Good morning, and thank you for being here. I am Sharm Allen. I am the District Attorney for the 6th Judicial District, which is Knox County. We appreciate you being here as we announce the 313 initiative this morning. And the 313 initiative is a concerted and organized effort by state and local law enforcement officials to identify, target, and dismantle organizations that are coming here from Detroit, Michigan, and the surrounding area. These individuals have chosen Knox County and the surrounding counties to market their narcotics. I don't have to tell you that when narcotics come into our community, not only do we have additional drug charges, we have additional violent crime that results from that influx of drugs into our community. We also have overdose deaths. In Knox County alone, we had 39 suspected overdose deaths just last month in January. This initiative will target those individuals, and just since our recent beginning, we have had some very positive results. I'd like to share some of those results with you right now. In the last month and a half, we have removed from the streets almost 42 pounds of methamphetamine, almost 8 pounds of fentanyl and/or heroin, multiple pounds of marijuana, multiple dosage units of prescription pills, over $132,000 in cash, 29 guns have been seized, 4 of which were stolen guns, and most importantly, 46 Detroit-connected arrests have been made by the law enforcement officials who are part of the 313 initiative. You might ask, why is it titled the 313 initiative? Well, that is simple. 313 is the area code for the Detroit, Michigan area. We're here today to make a statement and to let those individuals from the 313 area code know that Knox County and the surrounding counties are no longer a place that you are welcome. This is officially a hostile market for those of you who want to peddle your drugs in our area. And with that, I would like to introduce my friend and colleague, Jimmy Dunn, who is the District Attorney General for the 4th Judicial District, serving Cock, Granger, Jefferson, and Sevier counties.
Thank you, General. I'd like to tell you just a little bit about how our plan is a little different than what we've been doing in the past. Over the past several years, law enforcement has relied on traditional investigations, targeting multiple individuals in criminal conspiracies. Often these investigations are lengthy in nature, with the investigations taking months or even years to conclude. The 313 initiative is an approach where individuals and drug trafficking organizations are identified and quickly dismantled using a more short-term investigative approach, such as traffic stops, buy bust, search warrants, giving law enforcement the ability to address more trafficking in a shorter period of time. Law enforcement agencies will utilize all available resources and investigative tools to identify these individuals and groups from Detroit who are within the target area that reside in or travel through or often frequent East Tennessee for the sole purpose of establishing travel corridors and distribution points for illegal narcotics such as heroin, fentanyl, and methamphetamine. These investigative tools would include both traditional detective work and 21st century technology that we can use to stop the pipeline of illegal drugs into our community. So you see, collaboration is paramount to the success to this 313 initiative. These are the agencies that are participating in this initiative: the Drug Enforcement Administration, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Eastern District of Tennessee, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the Tennessee Highway Patrol, the Knoxville Police Department, the Knox County Sheriff's Department, the 4th Judicial Drug Task Force, Sevier County Street Crimes Unit, 5th Judicial Drug Task Force, 7th Judicial District Crime Task Force, and the District Attorney Generals of the 4th, the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th Judicial Districts. So at this time, I'd like to introduce to you Mr. General Jared Effler, who will representing Campbell, Claiborne, Fentress, Scott, and Union counties. And he will tell us how this will assist rural areas.
Thank you, General. As General Allen has already alluded, let's be very clear that drug trafficking is a violent crime that causes the death of our citizens and often wreaks havoc in our communities. This is especially true when heroin, methamphetamine, and fentanyl dealers in our rural judicial districts are sourced by larger scale traffickers in our metropolitan areas. This 313 initiative will equip law enforcement and prosecutors with a centralized database where they can share information that will enable us to better identify and prosecute both our local dealers and their larger scale traffickers. I am confident that this 313 initiative will improve the efficiency and effectiveness of our drug prosecutions and investigations. It will make our communities safer, and most importantly, it is going to send a strong message to Detroit drug dealers that East Tennessee is not a place for them to set up shop. At this time, I would like to introduce my colleague, who very capably serves the citizens of Blount County, General Ryan Desmond.
Thank you. As General Effler said, there are multiple purposes to this initiative. Of course, it's about maintaining the safety of our community, but it's also about sending a message. That message begins with law enforcement and what has been laid out here today, their ability to take violent drug traffickers off the street and their dangerous substances away from our communities. But that message continues with us as prosecutors in the District Attorney's Office, and the message is clear. The people of East Tennessee are fed up with drug trafficking coming into our communities. We are tired of the deaths, the crime, and the violent activity that results from that drug trafficking. And we as district attorneys will partner with our law enforcement friends to send that message. They will arrest, they will gather the evidence, and then we will strictly apply the laws of the state of Tennessee to seek harsh sentences for those that are bringing these dangerous substances into our community. The onus is upon us to make sure that we hear the voices of the East Tennessee citizens and that we maintain the safety of our communities, and we will do so through this initiative.
Thank you, and with that, we are concluding our presentation portion, and we will take any questions that you guys have.
What makes this different than things you've tried before?
Who wants, anybody?
Well, I can say this. The big part is we are all limited to our jurisdictional cases, right? Cases are brought in Knox County or Blount County. This is a collaborative effort. Our drug task force and the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation will be communicating hand in hand with each other to identify these individuals so that people that are going from Sevier County to Knox County to Blount County, it is a regional problem, and we have to fight the front. We have to fight this battle on many fronts, and it has to be a collaborative effort that we all join in together. And I thank the TBI for bringing all of us together, because when we are hand in hand partnering, our message is all that much stronger, our enforcement is all that much stronger.
When you look at violent crime in the community, is there any, do you know what percent can be tied back to Detroit or that 313 area?
I can't give you a particular percentage, but I can tell you that the majority, vast majority of crime is related directly to drugs. Every crime you look at, you can really trace it back, if you go far enough, to some drug nexus. And so anything that we can do to stop the drugs from coming in is not only going to decrease our drug crimes, they're going to decrease everything from our violent crimes all the way down to our shoplifting. I mean, when you think about it, it really, the influx of drugs affects everything. Even shoplifting crimes where people are going in and stealing items from a store just to resell that to have the money to buy the drugs. Everything, our DUIs, all of our DUIs now, vast majority of them are drug related. They used to be alcohol. Now it's a mixture of alcohol and drugs, and lots of just pure drug DUI cases. So most of the cases that we touch as prosecutors have some nexus to a drug somewhere down the road. And so anything that we can do to stop that influx of drugs is going to curb that crime rate across the board.
Is there anything the community can do to help you all with this initiative? You know, how can the community spot drug trafficking, and what should they do if they suspect it's happening?
Well, our citizens are indispensable in our effort to curb the drug epidemic that plagues our entire region. And we encourage them, if you see something, say something. You know, if you have suspected drug dealers in your community, you can remain anonymous, but please report that to your local police department or local sheriff's department, because oftentimes it's that information which leads to investigations, which leads to prosecution, which leads to removing those dealers from our street. So I would encourage the citizens, if you're fed up with drug dealing, you know, report that to law enforcement and they will follow up on it.
How much of today's announcement is a result of what we saw a couple of days ago, that drug bust, 3 pounds of fentanyl coming in on the Greyhound bus? Was that kind of the tipping point for you guys?
I don't think that was a tipping point. I think we had already begun the initiative, and what you are seeing, those busts that you are seeing, are a result of our initiative. So the initiative's been up and running for a couple of months, and as I mentioned in our statistics, they've been extremely successful so far. So I think the tipping point came long before that bust that you saw a couple of days ago. I think the tipping point has come for law enforcement and for us as district attorneys forever. We have been so sick of this, and so we're constantly coming up with new and improved ways. I really do want to reiterate what I think one of you guys said, maybe Ryan, that really this is the TBI came to us and said, we want to work together more collaboratively with more partners. We think we can be more successful in combating this problem if we really set up a better team. And so even though it's the district attorneys who are standing here talking to you, we cannot reiterate enough how much this was a law enforcement initiative where they came together and they are working together at all levels. So many law enforcement and investigators from different agencies are working together. And the tipping point is all of those investigators and all of us prosecutors are sick and tired of the devastation that we are seeing in our community because of these drugs.
And if I may just briefly add, just one other thing, this is where the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, our law enforcement agencies have brought so much. Typically a criminal investigation is reactive, right? You wait for a crime to occur, then you go gather evidence, you gather witness statements, and you see if you can apply that evidence to the law. They are taking a very proactive approach. We are going to build these cases on the front end. If you're coming from Detroit, we're not going to wait for you to get established, to get your hooks in our community. We're going to be on the lookout from you the second you come into our state jurisdiction. And we are going to begin building those cases automatically. If you're communicating with people in Knoxville or people in the East Tennessee area, we're going to know ahead of time because we're already going to have their phones. We're going to know exactly who those individuals in Detroit are. So if you're coming into East Tennessee, you better beware because they're already on the lookout for you, and we're already building cases against you before you've ever gotten here. And that's the message we're trying to send.
And is it possible to say when East Tennessee started to see an uptick in drug trafficking, specifically from Detroit? Was this the past year, past handful of years where we started to see that uptick?
I can tell you that in Knox County, that we originally, years ago, started with a pill problem. We had a significant number of pill mills in Knox County, and we did a really good job, law enforcement did a really good job of shutting down those pill mills. And once we closed those pill mills, what happened is we already had an entire part of our society that was already addicted to opiates. And so at that point, we became a supply and demand situation. We had so many people here who were already addicted, looking for specifically opioids, that in 2015, that shift began. That's when we really shut down the last of the pill mills, and that is 2016, I believe, is the first year that we saw fentanyl is the #1 drug in all of our overdose deaths. Before that, we had seen oxycodone, oxymorphone, the pills. So really the shift, I think, in Knox County and the surrounding counties began in the mid-teens when we really started shifting to the heroin. And then in recent years, we've seen the heroin shift to fentanyl, because fentanyl, I believe, is cheaper to produce, and they can cut their drugs with it, and they can make more money. Fentanyl happens to be extremely deadly, and because of the influx of fentanyl, we're seeing more deaths. And so I believe that's the progression of we really, before 15 it was pills, 16 it became heroin, the later teens it's become fentanyl, and then we're where we are today. So that is our message. Stop your heroin, stop your fentanyl, stop your methamphetamines, because we are beginning to see an uptick again in methamphetamine along with the fentanyl and the heroin.
Is there any correlation between local gang activity and the drug trafficking that you're seeing from Detroit?
Anybody want to take that?
Yeah, you do. Go ahead.
Yes, there's a correlation. In Knox County specifically, because we being an urban area have a little more of a gang situation probably than my surrounding counties, but there is a definite correlation between gang activity and drug activity. That's what a gang is. A gang is a group of individuals who use criminal enterprises to build their gang up and connect themselves. And so drug trafficking is certainly something that goes hand in hand with gang activity in Knox County.
And I believe that adds just to why this collaboration is so important. It is true that the gang activity may have taken a little bit of a foothold in Knoxville, but the footprint is spreading to all of our communities. Their stash houses are in our communities where they like to hide their drugs, their weapons. Those aren't just contained, to Knox County jurisdictions. It's coming into all our communities, and that's why this collaboration is so important. Because we know even if they live here in Knox County, they may have suppliers or dealers or stash houses in other communities. So being able to communicate with our jurisdictions is just critical to building the overarching larger case against those gangs who have made their way into our communities.
And one more question for me, if I can. We saw that story again just a few days ago, 3 pounds of fentanyl being stopped before coming into the community. Is it possible to say, just to give people an idea, 3 pounds of fentanyl, how many different people could that potentially be distributed to had it not been stopped?
That amount of fentanyl, I'm not sure how many persons that amount of fentanyl would have the capability of causing their death, but it's safe to say that literally it could wipe out a large portion of the Knox County population and also a large portion of my judicial district, which right now sits around 130,000 people. So I'd like to impress upon everyone that when you start talking about fentanyl, a piece of fentanyl the size of Abraham Lincoln's nose on a penny is enough to kill you. So multiply that into however many pounds, then it's very easy to see that literally he could wipe out thousands of our citizens.
Any more? Okay, thank you guys very much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We put that chair there.